What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some Biomutant content. Now, we're going to start out with an impressions video, and then I normally review games after I 100% them. You can check out all of the games that I have done that for on my channel if you're interested. But for right now, we're just talking general impressions, things I found interesting, some key takeaways. I'll reserve more nuanced review stuff for the actual review when I get to it. But for right now, we're just kind of covering some general stuff. So, Biomutant is very unique. While it blends a lot of ideas from other games that I've certainly seen, the amalgamation of them is certainly a very interesting thing to see. So when the game starts up, first of all, let's talk about the character creator. So you play this weird anthropomorphic marsupial type thing, and you can pick one of 6 breeds for it that you should be able to see on screen here. And these kind of adjust your stats a little bit depending on what you pick. And then from there, you can actually mutate the breed, and this will actually affect your stats. So the breed is more of a starting point, and then at that point you can adjust the stats any which way you want. It is particularly funny to me that the overall appearance kind of affects your stats and stuff, so picking a pretty character, so to speak, might not necessarily be the best character stat-wise. So you can come up with some things that just look absolutely ridiculous. And then you can adjust the characters fur color and everything independent of that. But moreover, there is about 6 classes you can choose from. Now, from playing the game, I can tell you that this primarily affects your general combat style. However, as you level up, because this is an RPG, and you will be leveling up, there are certain extra perks and stuff that you can pick that are specific to your class. Now, overall, not really going to affect your gameplay too much. Most of it's just niche little bonuses to the specific thing that your class is supposed to do well. But keep in mind, this is more of a starting point than the end game. Now, just real quick, I'm going to be spoiling the intro to the game right off the bat. If you're not interested in that, maybe click off from here. The introduction to the game is actually really weird because it has more of a story than I was anticipating. The game setup from all the promotional material is that it's post-apocalyptic Earth. There was some company that dumped a bunch of oil and stuff into the ocean, and it caused the apocalypse by just kind of destroying the world, and now the tree of life at this point is dying, and you have to go around and try to fix it. That's the whole point of the game. So I kind of just expected some free roam, go kill the 4 monsters it mentioned in the promotional material. But as it turns out, they actually developed a whole backstory for whatever your character happens to be, where it turns out that your mother actually invented all this crazy Wung Fu, they call it, which is their blend of melee, ranged, and martial art type combat. And apparently your mother invented this, and there's a whole backstory. You play as a kid version of you sometimes, which is really just a miniature version of the character you made. So that caught me off guard. That was just very odd. Was not expecting that at all. Now, the combat itself is pretty good. Kind of reminds me of Devil May Cry more than anything else. But, obviously takes itself a lot less seriously than that. But overall, very smooth, very pretty game. Can't fault it in the looks department itself. They really took an idea and ran with it. It's really interesting to see these nonsensical creatures fighting and running around actual post-apocalyptic looking ruins of modern day Earth. It's quite the juxtaposition, I suppose you could call it. Now, there is a ton of character progression. I did want to mention that. There is, in addition to leveling up, basically every time you level up, you'll get to increase your stats, and then you'll also get update points, and then there are actually separate progression systems outside of that for your mutations and your psi powers. So when you level up, you primarily get upgrade points for your kind of melee or gun-focused abilities, and then you get psi points from either rescuing people or praying at these altars. And then you use your psi points to upgrade your psi powers, which is the crazy mind-bending force user type stuff. And then killing certain enemies as well as finding old hazardous waste will give you bio points that you can then spend on mutating your character, which will give you all sorts of other powers. So it was really cool to see those systems decoupled from your actual level progression. So it just kind of gives you some other things to work towards progression-wise. And then also there is the crafting system. Now they showed off this crafting system quite a bit in the promotional materials, and I've got to say it is pretty crazy, actually. So you can create weapons from scratch if you have all the appropriate materials, and it lets you create absolutely outlandish weapons and armor and things Armor you can usually modify rather than make, but the weapons you actually can make from the ground up if you want. And then from there, let's talk world building a little bit. So in addition to the world eater stuff going on with the Tree of Life, these big monsters that are eating away at its roots, there's also 6 tribes of these weird marsupial things that are at war with each other, and you can either unite them or you can just conquer all of them. And that kind of feeds into this small morality system of like light and dark, which you can balance. You don't have to be one or the other by any means. And then the light and dark kind of affects what kind of psi powers you can use or purchase to use. But despite it being post-apocalyptic, these tribes are everywhere, and you actually interact with them quite a bit, so it feels real lively. And it is open world. The first bit of the game is fairly on rails for like the first hour or two, but once you hit this place called, I believe it's Bricktown, the game just opens up fully, really. And after that, you can just have a grand old time running around doing whatever. I guess if I had to wrap up this impressions video, is that this game is hard to classify. I would say you're either going to really enjoy how just strange and outlandish it is, or you're going to see this and be like, what is happening? And probably not want to play it. If I had to guess, this game is probably going to be fairly polarizing in that way. For right now, that's really all I've got to say on it until I can wrap up all the achievements and then do a proper review. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.